Hello everyone, it's time for Good Week Israel, where we'll give you ILTV's latest positive highlights. So get ready to smile, because coming up, a Galilee ice creamery shows how you're supposed to advocate for peace. Israel building bridges with the UAE through water and food tech. And finally, aliens again! We look to the heavens in high hopes of finding far-off worlds and intelligent extraterrestrial life. Now, a prestigious UN prize-winning ice creamery, Buza, is in Israel, celebrating in its classic bridge-building style. Take a look.
So we have our 9th birthday here in Tel Aviv, and we're giving ice cream for free.
4 hours of free ice cream, complete with a DJ and balloons. A local shop based in Israel's multicultural Western Galilee region, Buza, which means ice cream in Arabic, celebrating 9 years of business in the community. And co-owners Israeli Jew Adam Ziv and Israeli Arab Ala Switat beaming with gratitude over the public's outpouring of support.
זה ממש ממש מרגש לראות את האנשים שמגיעים ומפרגנים, גם מביאים ציורים של ילדים שציירו לכבוד היום הולדת של בוזה, ואנחנו אומרים להם תודה, כאילו ביום הזה אנחנו כל שנה אומרים תודה לאנשים.
But serving up more than just a good cone, Buza long operating with the dream of bringing people together over their high-quality product. Buza even becoming the first Israeli company to win the UN's Flourish Prize for making the world a better place in 2017. And both owners, Ziv and Switat, crediting the Galilee's intertwining cultures for Buza's success.
הפסיפס האנושי שגר פה, והפסיפס האנושי שבאמת האזור והגליליות שנושא את המיוחד פה באזור גם.
Of course, the ice cream also playing its part.
The most special thing about Buza is that we are making the best ice cream in Israel. Local and fresh ice cream made from the local raw material and ingredients, and served fresh every day.
Now, meanwhile, speaking of the public's support, Buza also getting a leg up from the Western Galilee Now organization, a small business consortium of about 80 companies operating under the JNF USA's Go North initiative, and an anonymous JNF USA donor who's apparently been following Buza's progress for years, footing the bill for this year's birthday party, especially given the emotional roller coaster that this past year and a half has been.
We're very thankful to Jewish National Fund USA that wanted to show the power of ice cream, bringing people together. We've gone through a crazy time between Corona and then the riots in the country and also in the Galilee. But ice cream is stronger than anything, and we're celebrating. We're celebrating life in the Galilee.
Moving on, the Abraham Accords have been leading to some wonderful partnerships, but this next one might just be among the most significant examples to date, as it's about water and food security. Israel has the second largest agri-food tech and water tech industries in the world, and startup nation Central, while working to build bridges through Israeli innovations, is at the forefront of Israel's latest cooperation with the United Arab Emirates. Israeli innovation, whether you're aware of it or not, is building bridges across the globe, and particularly in agri-food tech and water tech, where Israel is number 2 in the world and is sharing its abilities to make the world a better place. That's why United Arab Emirates Water and Food Security Minister, Her Excellency Mariam bint Mohammed Sa'i Hareb Al-Meiri, is arriving in Israel to form a special cooperation with Israeli NGO Startup Nation Central. And her visit being for an initiative forefronted by the organization, aiming to both help Israel and the Emirates target their mutual challenges with water and food. In fact, specifically, it'll pinpoint the challenges which various Emirati companies have, and it'll apply Israeli innovative solutions to help fill in the gaps. Likewise, at a special meeting taking place at Startup Nation Central's headquarters, the minister, together with the Emirati ambassador to Israel, meeting with top representatives of Startup Nation Central and other relevant startups to gain an inside look at the Jewish state's water tech and agri-food tech sector. Of course, not too new, the Emirati Embassy and Startup Nation Central have been working together since April 2021, sharing ideas and finding solutions that'll be an economic asset to both countries. Did you know that Israel's southern Arava desert produces about 60% of the total Israeli export of fresh vegetables? Well, we visited the Vidor Tourist Center to find out exactly how.
With the Negev Desert taking up about half of Israel, you may expect much of the country to be dry and barren. But here in central Arava, we'll find many examples of Israelis actually trying to make the desert bloom. The Arava extends from the Dead Sea to Israel's most southern city of Eilat and is divided into central and southern regions. The climate here naturally yields harsh conditions and sandy soil with no minerals. But in spite of all this, the central Arava manages to maintain 460 active farms, and most of the residents rely on farming for a living. So Israel is basically divided into two sections. We have the north, which is very fertile, easy to grow, and then we have the south, which is more harsh, arid conditions. But much of the desert is used for agricultural purposes, right?
Yeah, well, actually, that's the miracle. Maybe in the most difficult place to grow agriculture, you've got a thriving agricultural community.
Very little will grow here without human intervention. Yet, the central Arava produces more than 60% of Israel's fresh vegetables.
Other countries should take notes on what's happening here in the desert.
And they come. We've got students from all over the world that are coming here to learn how to grow in difficult conditions, water management.
The Arava Research and Development Center hosts various scientific activities and provides support for the region's farmers, landscapers, and gardeners. But it all started with the first Jewish pioneers that settled here during the establishment of Israel.
I think it's also the attitude, you know, it's the chutzpah to say that if you put your heart and soul into something, you can make it happen. If you will it, it is no dream.
The center, which is funded by the Ministry of Agriculture and Jewish National Fund, houses 8 acres of greenhouses.
Wow, it's so nice in here.
Yeah, it's pretty green and cool.
Yeah.
This is actually just the tip of the iceberg in terms of all the agriculture that we grow here in the Arava.
So what do we have here? Sunflowers, melon, watermelon.
Yeah.
Now, these are all experiments on how to grow in these conditions.
These are all part of experiments. For example, you can see here really nicely the drip irrigation that we implement here in the Arava. Some techniques of how to grow vertically, so you can maximize your use of land and space.
The soil here in the greenhouse is not local Arava soil. Rather, it's brought in from other parts of the country.
Basically, everything here is not good for agriculture, but the people here are good for agriculture, and that makes all the difference.
Yeah, as long as you have the hope and the knowledge, then you could make the desert bloom.
Interestingly enough, the fruits and veggies grown in the Arava are sweeter than usual. And that's because growth under stress makes many plants produce more sugar than average.
This is sold in Israel? What is this?
This is actually an ornamental squash that we grow here. Part of an experiment to see whether it can cope with the natural conditions of the region. This is a Gulliver spinach, as you can see. It's not your typical spinach. This is considered to be a superfood, kind of like kale. It's actually an experiment that we are now in the process of learning how to grow it. You can give it a taste. Yeah, I like it. It's kind of meaty and has a very refreshing taste.
This has a thick texture. I feel like this would be good for stuffing it or rolling it up and making spinach.
לגמרי. I tried it instead of cabbage, and it's not, you know, when the cabbage leaf, when you cook it, it becomes like...
Yeah, it rips, it
mushy, and then it tears up.
The Visitor Center offers an interactive and unique way to get a better understanding of what the Arava is all about.
This is the playroom, okay? This is a live museum where we, as opposed to other museums, invite you to touch and experiment for yourself.
Ooh, look at that fly. That is not something I'd want to be on my fruit. Let's see how we fight the fruit fly in the Arava.
Now you can change the topographic map. It will change as you shape it, and you can make it green. You can build your own stream, your own valley, your own reservoir. This is a glimpse to a family's life in the Arava. This is the Canaan family, one of the researchers who are working here at the Arava Research and Development Center.
Although the Arava's residents face many challenges, they're constantly researching and experimenting new ways in order to improve the desert lifestyle and to develop the region.
You can't live here without having a passion to the region and without the understanding that you will need to reinvent yourself all the time.
And now for the moment that we've all been waiting for. Objective, debatable, potential proof of alien life among the stars, almost. Israeli astronomy professor Avi Loeb now launching the Galileo project at Harvard University, which with nearly $2 million in private funding hopes to systematically search for and study UAPs, or unidentified aerial phenomena, aka they're looking for possible evidence of extraterrestrial technology. Let's take a look at my interview with astrophysicist, chair of the Harvard Astronomy Department, and co-founder and director of the Galileo project, Professor Avi Loeb. Professor, it is so great to have you back with us. We talked a couple months ago when you first spoke about Oumuamua, which was discovered in 2017, a UAP which you've studied and asserted could be alien space junk. Now, how have your studies actually evolved in the past 4 years?
Right. In 2017, we discovered the first object from outside the solar system near Earth, and it looked weird. Didn't look like a comet or an asteroid. And since then, the US government had a task force and delivered a report to Congress identifying objects whose nature is not known in the sky above the US. And after that report came out, I said that it's about time for the scientific community to get engaged and identify the nature of these unusual objects near Earth. And that's what the Galileo project aims to do. And it's called the Galileo project because, as you may remember, Galileo Galilei changed our worldview by looking through his telescope. And the philosophers at the time refused to look through his telescope. So we shouldn't make the same mistake again. We should examine the sky and figure out what's out there.
Well, so are there other objects that maybe have crossed your path and piqued your interest recently?
Well, there are a large number of objects that were mentioned of other 140 mentioned in the Pentagon report to Congress. And that's an admission of the US government that its intelligence agencies are not doing their job in a way because they're supposed to know what flies above their sky. And I think the subject should move away from the talking points of politicians, military personnel, to the realm of science, where we will basically use telescopes that collect open data and we will analyze it in a transparent way. And gladly, over the past couple of weeks, I received private donations that make it possible. And I assembled a team of exceptional astronomers and scientists, and we plan to purchase these telescopes, equip them, analyze the data, and release it to the public and see what we find. It's a fishing expedition. We don't know what we will find, but we are open-minded. We shouldn't make any assumptions.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the Galileo project itself. You know, how exactly did it come to be? You know, who helped you put it together? What will you be looking at first?
Right, well, the administrator of the astronomy department at Harvard sent me an email one day saying you have a new research fund, and that never happens in academia. I asked who is the person that gave me the money? Could you please let me know the details so that I can thank that person? And then another multi-billionaire sat with me on the porch of my house with questions about my book, Extraterrestrial, which was translated to Hebrew a couple of months ago, Chotsan, and asked me questions about the book, and then decided that he wants to donate funds. And altogether, within 2 weeks, I got $2 million, and there are many more people interested in both funding and participating in this project after the public announcement. And what I did was assemble a team of exceptional and dedicated and passionate scientists that would like to collect more data and address this question scientifically. You know, science is about reproducibility of results. And I was born on a farm in Israel, and I pretty much maintained my childhood curiosity. When you tell a child what the truth is, the child refuses to believe you. The child goes out and collects, assembles data himself or herself, gets bruised very often. But in that process, you learn new things. And we pretty much want to do the same. We don't want to look at classified data because it was not the very best instruments that we can imagine. We want to assemble our own data, make it open to the public, and analyze it in a transparent way. And that's the way science is done. And this subject, should be part of astronomy, the mainstream, because we are using telescopes. Just to give you an example, a 1 meter sized telescope can resolve the head of a pin, a millimeter scale, on a human size object at a distance of 1 kilometer. So we can read off the label, made in country X versus made on exoplanet Y. And we will figure out what these objects are. Maybe they are natural, but so be it. Whatever we do, we will find something new. We will understand something that is currently not fully understood, and therefore it's a win-win proposition.
All right. So my final question, I've looked at some of the information on the Galileo project, and I understand that it's going to be very systematic, as you've said, transparent. What are the chances that alien life, extraterrestrial life, intelligent life has already visited Earth, in your opinion?
Oh, in my opinion, it's quite significant because most stars form billions of years before the sun. And just imagine a technological civilization like ours or a little more advanced. We already have artificial intelligence systems that drive our cars and in the future make medical decisions about us. And if you send such a system into space, it's just like educating your kids early on about the principles that would guide them through life and then sending them to the world. And you send an artificial intelligence system to another planet equipped with a 3D printer, it could replicate itself. And in 1 billion years, such systems can populate all habitable planets within the Milky Way galaxy. Wow. So if such a civilization, only one, existed in our past, it could have already sent these probes to Earth, and it's possible that they are here. And that would be the answer to Fermi's paradox. Where is everybody? It's not creatures, it's not biological entities that we will meet. It's AI systems or that could outsmart us. And we will need to use our own AI systems to understand them, just like relying on our kids to figure out content in the internet simply because they're more computer savvy.
All right, well, you've given us some very exciting things to think about. Professor Loeb, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Smoked meats have become more popular than ever before in Israel, so ILTV went to check out a restaurant that puts their own spin on this culinary trend. Take a look.
Restaurants here in Israel are constantly pushing the bar, coming up with new and innovative ways to cook delicious food. And in recent years, smoked meats have become more popular than ever before. Today we're visiting a restaurant that puts their own spin on this culinary trend. There are so many ways to cook meat, yet most will argue that smoking it is the way to go. This method has been used for centuries, and while it was originally done to preserve the meat, today it's a prized way to enhance flavor. Amazing.
Taste it.
A+.
I want to come back to the roots. I want to come back for what my father did and his father did. Slow cooking and cooking on stone, cooking with salt, cooking with smoke. We use almost 20 kinds of woods. Mix them up and change them up and depend on the woods and the smell, on the texture, on the bitterness we want to get.
Restaurant owner Liran Blue combines cooking with science, and by using an electric smoker, he's able to be very precise with the temperature. With the smoker's heat reaching 96 degrees Celsius, the meat is slowly smoked using wood such as hickory or oak.
People used to smoke meat a lot. Even if this is backyards, restaurants, the business understand that it's something that people love very much. Usually I keep a paleo diet, so it helps me, keep it kind of straightforward.
It's tasty, not too spicy, but has a lot of flavor. Here's it's a dish of chicken wings. They're smoked and they're coated with a citrusy mix of, herbs and spices.
Inspirations from his travels in America has helped him to craft the unique dishes featured here at his restaurant.
The menu is a lot of thought, a lot of passion. From my time in New Orleans, like 15 years ago, I had a vision of if I will have a restaurant, what I want to do. So it's a classic food, but still to give it a little bit of elegant, a little bit of something interesting.
Interesting is certainly the way to put it. And with so many of the dishes at the restaurant being rather complex, it's no surprise that most require several steps of preparation.
This is a brizala. It's a cured sirloin for a week and a half. We put it on bottom watermelon that we put inside a vacuum seal. Here we have tea, lemon and green tea. We put hot water on it, very little hot water. We put on it the brizala, and then on the table we put a little bit liquid nitrogen. What that does, take all the smell and all the aroma of the tea, put it inside the brizala, give it a little bit of lemony taste. Slowly.
Tell me what is happening here on the table.
One of my first impression of food, because I'm Ashkenazi, was tongue. And it was a horrible impression. And the first thing I tried to do in the restaurant to take things that I didn't like and trying to find a way to make them more interesting. So I took a tongue, a cow tongue, and we cook it for 36 hours at 80 degrees. Then we just cut it very, very thin. We make mustard ice cream, a little spheres of balsamic, and we smoke it with cherries on the table to give it a little bit smoky flavor.
Oh, wow, so this is a lot of different flavors. We're gonna eat tongue.
You're gonna eat tongue.
Oh boy, I've never had tongue before.
You're gonna eat tongue and you're gonna love it.
And now you do this for every table?
Every table. And now it's gonna smoke on the table. Let the smoke going up.
Let's give it a try. Wow, this mustard ice cream sounds really interesting. Make the ice cream here?
Everything we make here.
Wow. Now I could say that I absolutely love tongue, but I'm scared to try it anywhere else.
And that's all for today's Good Week Israel. I hope that we've helped you start your week off with a smile. I'm Aaron Porras. See you next week.